Hello, this is episode 18 of the Movie Burner podcast, the weekly podcast from Movie Burner Entertainment, where we discuss the latest entertainment news, reviews and share our views. So what's up first, John?
Disney have announced a series of new Star Wars films which are to be written by the Game of Thrones writers David Benioff and D.B. Weiss. In a statement by Kathleen Kennedy, she says David and Dan are some of the best storytellers working today, and their command of complex characters, depth of story and richness of mythology will break new ground and boldly push Star Wars in ways I find incredibly exciting. I'm slightly conflicted on this one, Stephen, but what's your thoughts on that piece of news that's broke in the last week?
Well, first and foremost, John, I don't watch Game of Thrones. I'm not a fan of the series, but I respect anyone out there who enjoys it. You filled me in a little bit of the George R. Martin's contributions. Obviously, the creator of Game of Thrones, and the sort of scheduling of his book writing and where the TV series is now, which I didn't know, which I'm sure you'll get into in great depth in a little moment. The news itself, when it broke, was I'm not going to say music to my ears, but I've been saying, and you've been saying for a long time about the standalone films in the Star Wars canon, to explore that sort of area during the Knights of the Old Republic. And I always thought, I've seen people on YouTube, etc., saying they would like to see a television series set in the Star Wars universe, very similar to the Game of Thrones. So you're kind of getting a good mix here. Although this isn't a television series, this is going to be a series of films. It's good in that part. I don't know too much about the writers though, but when I did see this news breaking last week, my immediate thought was Knights of the Old Republic era.
Yeah, in regards to George R. Martin, basically it's a 7-book series which he's completed 5 books in, and he's notoriously slow at finishing his books. He sometimes takes nearly, I think it's coming up for nearly a decade now, best part of a decade anyway, since he finished the 5th book. And the TV series is now well ahead of the books. And basically, a lot of people have criticised the two writers for the storytelling and some of the directions they've took throughout the Game of Thrones series. But since they've had to move away from the books and adapting the work, I have noticed a slight dip in quality. Don't get me wrong, it's not terrible. I still enjoy the series, and as I said, they did go off in their own direction pretty much from the start anyway. It was never a properly faithful interpretation of the books. In some cases they went in the complete opposite direction. They cut out some character arcs and plot points that were in the books. Some of the directions I have to say I did love, others not so much, which is why I say I'm slightly conflicted, because although I do agree with Kathleen Kennedy when she says they're good storytellers, I wouldn't quite go as far as to say some of the best. I think David Benioff in particular has got quite a good CV. He's worked in a number of good films over his career, but Dan Weiss has still got a lot to prove. I think he came to more prominence in the series, and with the vast majority of that series based off the works of George R. Martin, I think it'll be interesting to see how they do moving on to a new project, to see whether they can flesh out complex characters and deliver a deep mythology and world. Certainly hope we do, Stephen, and I completely agree with you. It did scream to me Knights of the Old Republic. I hope this is the route to go down, certainly with Rian Johnson confirming that his trilogy isn't going to be the Knights of the Old Republic. But it is interesting anyway. It
certainly gets the mind sort of thinking where this universe is going in terms of the standalone films, the saga films. We're going to be coming up to the final part of the sequel trilogy. The Solo movie comes out in a few months' time. There hasn't been an official announcement yet of the next standalone film. We already know, as you said, John, Rian Johnson's Star Wars trilogy is going to be in the works, I think, after 2020. And I can see that. I think this is going to take place possibly after the sequel trilogy. How far ahead, I don't know. It's interesting days, because the way I see this going is I think Lucasfilm Disney are going to drop the whole a Star Wars story thing. That's not to say they're going to drop the standalone films, but that sort of title that they gave it way back when Rogue One was getting promoted was a terrible, corny line. That I always preferred the use of the word anthology. Whether they'll go back to that or not, who knows. But just going back to this announcement, it'd be very interesting to see whether or not that we're going to get one from Benioff and Weiss 1 year, and then the following year we get a Rian Johnson one, then we go back to them again. Who knows? But it's, listen, they're trying to sort of duplicate their already expanded Marvel universe and sort of multi-layer the environment, if you like, and the times, and it's interesting. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, Bob Iger actually is quoted as saying the writers and the producers came to him to pitch an idea for a film which was focused on a point in time in the Star Wars mythology, so it will be interesting to see where that is. But I think Disney have actually says that they've not given it a timeline yet, when these films will take place and when they'll hit the theatres. But as you say, Stephen, they've got numerous films in the works. It's probably one of the worst kept secrets that there's going to be an Obi-Wan film. It's not officially been released or announced, as you said. And obviously Rian Johnson's got his trilogy coming out. I just wonder if this means that they'll now be going to 2 films a year, or whether it will be sequentially one every year. Because certainly with them being steadfast in their position of keeping the Han Solo film in May this year, maybe this is trialing the release slot and seeing if May is going to work as it used to do back in the day. And if it does and they get good numbers, then maybe we'll see them releasing one in May and one in December going forward. I don't know, but and certainly the 2 chaps seem to be fans of Star Wars. They've been quoted as saying, in the summer of 1977, we travelled to a galaxy far, far away, and we've been dreaming of it ever since. We're honoured by this opportunity, a little terrified by the responsibility, and so excited to get started as soon as the final season of Game of Thrones is complete. So certainly if they've got that knowledge of the universe, then that's one step in the right direction anyway, so very intrigued.
Yeah, as you said, John, we don't know for sure how these new films will impact the Star Wars story spin-offs, if you like. I don't think that's a bad shout though, to have 2 films a year. I think it could work where you could have the May release to be the standalone films and keep the sort of trilogy films for the Christmas release. I'm certainly for that. Growing up, May was always Star Wars time. Even through the prequels, May was the release date of these, and it wasn't until obviously the Force Awakens was released at Christmas, and I thought that was a great move. I thought it, why weren't all the films released at Christmas time? Because it's a great time to see these movies. But I'm all for two movies a year. It certainly works for Marvel. Marvel, they've produced something like 18 films, I think it is, and they've got 6 more to be released by 2020. I would like to see Lucasfilm getting their act together in this sort of instance, because having one director do one episode, then another director, that's not good for the saga films, which is evident. You can see that there's a bit of inconsistency. I think committing one director to a trilogy in the case of Rian Johnson for this new trilogy is a good move, because I think that trilogy will be consistent. It'll be his baby, if you like, have his mark on it. And it's the same with Benioff and Weiss. I think I don't think there's a limit of how many series of movies they're going to get, is there? I'm not sure, John, but a lot of people are assuming it'll be a trilogy, but I think it'll be more, if depending on how successful the first, maybe the second one is, but that will remain to be seen.
Yeah, I mean, certainly the potential's there, Stephen, for them to go off and do something completely new, if indeed they aren't going to do the Old Republic setting. I think Disney have probably learnt a valuable lesson after the release of The Last Jedi. They've realised that there's only a certain amount fans will tolerate in terms of mucking about with mythology and stuff like that. And if they want to do these more radical, different visions, then they probably better do them with totally new characters in a completely different setting. And I think we've already seen that with the Rian Johnson trilogy, that he's going to go down a completely different route. He's going to use different characters, all new locations. I think that begin to realise that you need to start stepping away from the characters we already know. It's making the universe and the galaxy smaller. It's a big old galaxy with huge areas that we've not seen before, so expand it into new characters, into new locales, and see what we can do with the story going forward. I think it's very exciting getting all these different people in. I completely agree, getting one person in to anchor a certain series, a certain trilogy is the way forward. It's created many issues with this current sequel trilogy. We've got one vision from J.J. Abrams. I think he came out and says he wasn't bothered about Rian Johnson, or he enjoyed Rian Johnson's script and he wished he was directing it, but I think that was all PR. I do think, I can't see JJ being happy with some of the plots he set up, such as Snoke kind of being ripped up I personally was quite happy with the way he dealt with it, but I can understand why others weren't, because it kind of did fling some of the visions that I'm sure he had in place and some of the fans had for these characters out the water completely. So, I mean, as I says, getting one chat or a couple of chapters into Helm the films and new trilogies going forward is definitely the right step forward, and I would like to see them going off and doing something new with a completely new set of characters, new universe, be it the Old Republic or something totally different. I mean, there's a big old galaxy, as I said, you've got the Mandalorians and stuff like that you can delve into, so be very interesting to see where they go with this.
Yeah, I know that it's just speculation at the moment, John, in regards to where these films will go. We certainly hope it's Knights of the Old Republic from a fan point of view. If they do go down that road, it certainly opens up more possibilities for the Star Wars universe. At the moment, Lucasfilm and Disney have been playing it safe with Rogue One. Just, you know, stick that little story in between episodes 3 and 4 and play it safe. And I also think that a lot of people are saying, why didn't they do Obi-Wan before they did Solo? I think there's a little bit of fan service on Lucasfilm's part. This was announced coincidentally just after the killing off probably one of the big, or I'm not saying probably, it's actually the biggest character, you know, out with Luke Skywalker in the Star Wars canon, killing him off in The Force Awakens, and then announcing not that long afterwards, oh, don't worry, we're doing a standalone film on Solo. So, you know, but we'll see. You know, I think they're starting to take, you know, gambles. I think after The Last Jedi, they saw the success of that movie financially. Yes, it is divisive, but what film isn't, you know? So I think that this has opened up a lot of possibilities now for Lucasfilm and Disney, and it's certainly opened up the possibility of more exciting stories from different eras now in the Star Wars universe, and we can finally move away from the Skywalker saga.
Yeah, and that's exactly why moving into these different locations and different parts of the galaxy and maybe telling stories that have not been seen before based on new characters is a good thing, because it gives them the opportunity to take gambles that they otherwise wouldn't be able to do if it was within the saga trilogy. So it's very, very interesting, even if I'm slightly conflicted. I do hope and wish them all the best going forward, because I'm a big Star Wars fan, as you know. But just moving on, Stephen, a teaser trailer for Venom dropped last week as well, and talking about conflicted and divisive, this seems to have caused a bit of conflict and division amongst fans of the character, because we don't get to see anything of him in the trailer.
I'll be honest, John, I liked the tone of this right away. It's it's actually what I expected from a trailer this early on. This film doesn't come out till I think the 5th of October this year anyway, so worldwide. This is the first film in Sony's Marvel universe, and it's one of Marvel's most complex characters. Comes to the big screen finally, starring Tom Hardy as the lethal Venom. I've got to say, you know, I asked the question when I was watching this, who is that narrating, but you actually confirmed who it was, John. Yeah,
it's Tom Hardy himself, but I can completely understand why you probably weren't sure, because he's sporting an unusual American accent. Very good American accent, very authentic. It reminded me almost of Bob Dylan back in the 60s, the way he spoke. Very, very interesting trailer, I have to say, even though it has created a little bit of division amongst certain elements of the fan base. I know there's a 5,000 plus post on Reddit about this, not hugely criticising it, but kind of be amused as to why they didn't really show anything of the symbiotic alien that is Venom, of course. But as I says, quite happy with this teaser. It does exactly what a teaser's supposed to do. It get people talking without giving too much away, but it gave enough to give you an insight of what the tone's going to be and stuff like that. It had some brilliant little bursts of action in there, and it seemed very, very character driven, focusing heavily on Eddie Brock, as you'd expect. And before he has his little thing with the alien, and he's really looking as though he's struggling to comprehend what's happening with him. And I love the narration in this teaser as a whole. I love the way that extended line, it kind of lasts for half the trailer, and the way it fuels many of the visual elements in this teaser. He says everybody's got their thing, maybe it's a breakup, and then it pans to Michelle Williams' character. That must be, obviously I'm assuming it's his partner in it. And then he says a death. We then see something resembling a corpse. I say resembling because it's looks as though it's in pieces under a body bag. Then he says an accident, pans to what looks like a major crash. Whatever it is, you used to be one thing and now you're something else. And then we then see Eddie Brock waking up. It's a simple little thing they've utilised there, but it's very nicely done, I have to say. So many cool moments in it, and as I said, I'm quite pleased with it, Stephen, but I'll let you in.
You know, I've got to laugh at people when they have this kind of reaction to it's almost like a teaser to the teaser trailer. You've got to remember this film is well known to have an extremely difficult production history. The film was originally envisioned as a direct spin-off from Spider-Man 3 in 2007, though Topher Grace was stated not to return to this role.
That was a good thing.
There's been a lot of issues, not just with Venom character, but you've got to put it into, you've got to look at the bigger picture here, and how badly we wanted Spider-Man into this cinematic universe as well. So I just find it a wee bit amusing, the way people react these days to certain things. It's a teaser to a teaser trailer. People, come on, calm down. But once the Amazing Spider-Man 2 film was released, Sony announced that a Venom Carnage would be part of the Spider-Man cinematic universe. And soon after, Sony and Marvel decided to collaborate with the Spider-Man series, opting to reboot again, as we already know, and placing a Venom spin-off on hold. Though Sony wishes to continue with their spin-offs of the Spider-Man series, no word has been announced on this film's development yet. I think we spoke about this a while ago. I think it was maybe a few podcasts ago, that Tom Holland would be making some form of cameo in this, but not as Spider-Man. I think it was as Peter Parker, was it, John?
Yeah, that's correct, yeah.
And also I see from the bill and Woody Harrelson is in this movie as well, which again, I didn't see him in the trailer, but there wasn't much in the trailer, to be fair. But no, listen, it's a long time till October. I'm pretty sure we'll get another teaser trailer and then a full trailer possibly in the summer, and I'm looking forward to seeing this character. I think it's going to be very interesting to see Tom Hardy portraying another comic book villain.
Yeah, and I mean, the teaser itself has some great action moments in it. That scene with the office workers flying in opposite directions, that was incredible. And even Eddie Brock screaming in the MRI machine, that was quite cool. I think that's clearly the moment the symbiote takes hold of him. And we get to see a brief little glimpse at Riz Ahmed's character, who I believe is probably playing the antagonist in the film, which even now feels strange to say, because we're clearly getting a film about the origins of a well-known villain, and just having that in your mind that he's not the villain in the film, there is a villain to a villain, it kind of bends my mind. But as I say, Stephen, I think it's a genius play the way they've handled it. It's got people talking, it's created a bit of a stir. It was trending on YouTube, a massive post dedicated to it on Reddit, and it's done exactly what a teaser should do, and we'll get to see Venom eventually, I'm sure of it. Or maybe we won't, Stephen, I don't know, maybe they'll leave it till we get to see the film in the cinema itself, Lord knows. But it certainly gives a short little insight into what the plot's doing, what the tone of it is, and Tom Hardy as well, who looks absolutely incredible in the short moments we get to see with the character. But there's not a huge amount more we can really touch upon on this one, because it is only a teaser trailer and it's barely 2 minutes long.
And just staying on the teaser trailer trail here, if you like, another one dropped last week, another Deadpool one I should say, for the sequel coming up, and this one is called Deadpool Meet Cable teaser.
Yeah, Stephen, this is hilarious, this trailer. I don't know of a film that's had two better or funnier trailers than what this Deadpool 2 film has. The entire promotional campaign has just been utterly mental. From the Bob Ross trailer, which was quite frankly hilarious and crazy, we watched it before we came on, flicking the paintbrush off the metal, the table and everything, just amazing the way he nailed it, to this one, which is every bit as funny. I just love the way it casually introduced fairly important elements of the plot and major characters such as Cable into proceedings, whilst being interspersed with just the most utterly ridiculous and immature comedy, which obviously Deadpool's famed for anyway. It was just amazing the way they done it, and I thoroughly enjoyed the trailer scene. Yeah,
I loved the tone of this right away, John. I think Ryan Reynolds' concerns on the Disney takeover look to be put to bed, just with some of the lines that were said in this trailer that were totally laugh out loud moments, from Reynolds and Brolin. I love the look of Josh Brolin in this trailer, and I'm glad it's him as well. It's playing the part. When you look at some of the names that were up for this role, whether or not they were speculation or they put themselves forward, you get Michael Shannon, great actor, and then you've got some of the Expendables in there as well. Lundgren, Gibson, Bruce Willis, Stallone, Schwarzenegger, Ron Perlman as well, who's famous for his Hellboy, Pierce Brosnan, which was a strange one as well, and David Harbour. As I said, glad it's Josh Brolin that's coming into this. I was actually just talking to you before we came on tonight, and it'd be very interesting to see, that maybe further down the line there might be a Fox Marvel crossover where there could be a possibility that Josh Brolin might be playing two villains in the same film. As we know, he plays Thanos, so who knows. But listen, I love Deadpool. I'll put my hands up and say I wasn't the biggest Ryan Reynolds fan, and I've got a mixed feelings about him when he was announced to play Deadpool, because he'd already played Wade Wilson in the X-Men Origins film, and I hated the character in that. But I've got to say that Deadpool is one of my favourite comic book films over the last 5 years, and I'm certainly looking forward to this sequel. As we know, it's had its own production problems as well. It was announced in October 2016 that Tim Miller would not be returning as director for the sequel. He decided not to return due to mutual creative differences with Ryan Reynolds during the pre-production of this film. Miller later stated that he left the sequel because he didn't want to make some stylised movie that was 3 times the budget, and wished to create the same kind of film that made the first one a success. Normally in the case of a sequel, it's always bigger, faster, flashier, and there's always more money thrown at these sequels anyway, so that's to be expected. But you've got to respect the former director's decision.
Yeah, it's a correct decision as well. You don't want to see a bigger, flashier film. It worked for the first film, and what worked for the first film, they should just take that formula and move forward into the sequel with it, because there's not another comic book film like this. It's completely unique. You've got swearbirds flying around. It's obviously R-rated. Completely agree with you on the points about Josh Brolin. I think he's a tremendous actor. Looks a great antagonist as Cable. The performance, the visuals, even his voice in it, just all looks on point. He's just... I couldn't have picked a better actor. It'd be very interesting to see if he did come up against Thanos. But you would probably anticipate that Thanos is going to meet a sticky end in one of these Avenger films. It has to, really. Elsewise, the rest of them are getting wiped out, which would put an end to the cinematic universe pretty quick. That'd be a little bit of a letdown. In terms of Reynolds, I agree with you again, Stephen. I wasn't a big fan of Ryan Reynolds, but he's kind of turned me around. It's just something about the guy in this film. It just works. His accent, the voice, everything about it's just bang on. Just the way he breaks the fourth wall as well, to look at the camera and just take things down. And at one point he even has a little dig at the visual effects, balls up in Justice League, which took me a couple of times to pick up on it, but when I did, I was absolutely killing myself for it. Just that line, Dale, what in the actual ass, why aren't the visual effects done? It's a metal arm, it's not like we're trying to remove a moustache. Absolutely loved that. That was great. Nailed it. And again, it just, going back to what I said at the beginning when we started talking about this, that just perfectly sums up what this trailer's all about, what Deadpool's promotional thing's been all about. Just taking those humorous moments and interspersing them with more serious moments. This is basically a trailer to introduce Cable, the main antagonist, and we've got Wade Wilson playing with figures and taking Woody from Toy Story's famous catchphrase, and it's just absolutely crazy. I've not seen anything like it in any other promotion of a film. Brianna Hildebrand as well looks as cool as in this film, also because she's returning, but that yellow X-Men suit, it just looked like something straight out of the comics, and she's got one of the best superhero names out there, as Negasonic Teenage Warhead. What a name. And even the ending too, Stephen, as you says, with Brolin and Reynolds, just the dialogue and the swearing, your time's up, you dumb fuck. Well, that's just lazy writing, it's just hilarious. And then I was speaking to you about this as well before we came on, just touching on the Kid on Pot summary that they put out, which references everything from Back to the Future to sexually aggressive canines. That was just absolutely crazy to me. I don't want to read the whole plot out because it is quite long, but it talks about battling ninjas and earning the coveted coffee mug title, World's Best Lover. This just sums up the attitude they've got to it, the blasé attitude, and it's just perfectly in fitting with the original film, and it looks like they're going to follow the same humour that made that work so well. And I wish that plot was correct. I really wish that was a real one, because I'd love to see some sexually aggressive canines fighting Deadpool.
It certainly would cover all genres. Listen, this film's going to be good. I can, just from the promotion itself, as you said, the Bob Ross one, which was an absolute masterpiece. Pardon the pun, but the tune sticks in your head. It really does.
Yeah.
But no, listen, I'm looking forward to it, John. Deadpool 2 comes out here in the UK on the 16th of May and 2 days later in the US. And just staying on the comic book theme, another piece of news that dropped last week, John, this was a new Joker standalone announcement.
Yeah. Apparently Joaquin Phoenix is going to play the Joker in the new Scorsese produced film. According to reports, Todd Phillips met with Phoenix last year and pretty much fleshed out and discussed the possibility of him coming in. It's just awaiting studio approval to have it officially announced. I have to say, this could be an absolutely excellent choice. I think he's an incredibly talented man with a brilliant and great acting range, which is perfectly highlighted in the wide variety of different films and roles he's popped up in over the years, from Her to Walk the Line to Gladiator, all the way through to this Mary Magdalene film he's going to be starring in this year. Incredibly versatile actor, and I'm very intrigued to see what he can do with this character.
Yeah, this is going to be, as I said, a standalone film separate from the DC universe, John. So I don't think Jared Leto's got to worry about anything anytime soon. There's already been talk that he might return anyway to some kind of Suicide Squad type movie, or either a sequel to that film, or even a spin-off alongside Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn. That's still in the pipeline, so I don't think he's got anything to worry about. What I do like about this standalone film is it does give, I don't know if he's confirmed as a director or not, is he?
Todd Phillips, yeah.
Yep, he is confirmed. It will give him a bit more flexibility in where he wants to take this now. I have read that this is going to be set during the 1980s, John, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So it's a good period to do this sort of character in. As I said, Joaquin Phoenix is a tremendous actor. Been a big fan of his over the last 15 or so years. Such a versatile actor. He's also got a very good sense of humour. I don't know if you've ever watched him on any chat shows and anything like that, but he's got quite a warped sense of humour, so this kind of role might suit him. And it's interesting, you know, that although it's been announced that it looks like he could play the Joker, it certainly wasn't one of the names that kind of came into my head initially. I know that there's been talk about other actors coming in. There was rumours of Leonardo DiCaprio, which I couldn't envisage. As much as, you know, DiCaprio is a fantastic actor, I just didn't think this was his type of role that he could pull off. I don't think he's got that kind of humour about him, if you like, that kind of dark, warped, twisted sort of mentality about him. Although, you know, he did kind of portray that type of role in Shutter Islands,
which was Scorsese, I know.
It was Scorsese, but what's interesting about this announcement, I don't think Martin Scorsese was actually reported at all in this report that came out last week. I could be wrong, but I didn't see his name mentioned.
No, I think he's just basically coming in as a producer. I don't think he's going to have any more say on the film. I don't think he's writing it or directing it or anything like that. Todd Phillips is going to be the director. I do believe that Scott Silver is going to be writing alongside him. I think Phillips is co-writing as well as directing, which is an interesting choice. I always associated Phillips with more of the comedic type films such as Hangover. Listen, I did love some of the films. I liked the first two Hangover films, and I absolutely loved Due Date with Zach Galifianakis and Robert Downey Jr. That's one of my favourite comedy type films. He was responsible for that, so he is a good director, just not one that I would associate with this kind of film, but that doesn't mean it'll not be a success or anything. Speaking about some of the actors that were up for this role, I read today that Tommy Wiseau wanted to play the role of the Joker. He's not the best actor, let's be honest, Tommy. But I could quite easily picture the vampire. Oh god! And I completely agree with you on Joaquin having a kind of a warped sense of humour. I do believe at one point he was on like a 2-year hiatus from acting, where he kind of turned into a complete tramp. And even appeared on one of the chat shows. I don't know who it was, with a full-on beard and full-on trampish mode. I think he done a documentary on rapping or something. I don't know. It was some strange thing. But yeah, he's a strange chap, and I certainly think he could pull it off. In terms of the setting of the film, I read that it's going to be a gritty and grounded, hard-boiled crime film set in early 1980s Gotham City that's going to borrow it from early Martin Scorsese flicks such as Taxi Driver, Raging Bull and The King of Comedy. So I have to tell you, man, that's right up my street. It's got me very intrigued. Sounds very, very interesting. Brilliant setting. And I can't wait to see what they do with this film. I think seeing a Joker's origin story, I don't think I've ever heard of the origins of a Joker. every time we've seen him in a film before, he's already been fleshed out. We've really got a glimpse of him when he's been in full-on super-villain mode, so it'll be interesting to see how he starts out and how he gets that famous slashed face, whether it's his dad that does it or whether he cuts it for his wife or something like Heath Ledger says, or whether they go down a completely different acid bat thing like Jack Nicholson.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's as close as we got to an origin for the Joker, which was a bit strange that Tim Burton used the character Jack Napier, who also killed Bruce's parents. You know, it was, wasn't obviously canon with the comics at that time. No, but listen, I think the Joker and the character is right down Phoenix's street. And the reason I say this is, from what I've heard, he previously passed on playing both Lex Luthor in the Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice film, and also Doctor Strange. I thought he'd have played a great Doctor Strange, but I'm glad it went to Benedict Cumberbatch. And listen, I think he was really close on both those characters, but I think this one, as I said, will be right down the street. I think, as I said, it's probably a character that's very close to his heart, and it'll be very interesting to see what kind of take and spin he puts on this character. It's very interesting to see the sort of the live action portrayals of this character from right back to Cesar Romero in the television series and the Batman 1966 movie, which was very campy and a laughing clown, and then Jack Nicholson was like the sort of creepy uncle, if you like, with the facial scars. Heath Ledger's just took it in a different direction, as we already know, and Jared Leto's, although there wasn't a lot of him in the Suicide Squad, I think the jury's still out with his portrayal of the character. It certainly was a different take again, but I've got a good feeling about Joaquin Phoenix playing this role, and I hope that it does follow through and we see a film very soon.
Yeah, I think just about every Joker have all had their own different traits, different look, interesting personality going on, and certainly, I mean, all the way from Cesar Romero through to Jack Nicholson, even the great Mark Hamill and his voice acting as the Joker, all the way up to Heath Ledger and Jared Leto. They've all had very distinct and different personalities. They've all gave their own takes on the character, so it'll be very, very interesting to see how Joaquin approaches this, if indeed it does come in and it's confirmed by the studio. You see what direction he goes, how he's going to style the hair, what outfit he's going to wear and stuff like that, how he's going to go about speaking with the character and stuff. I know Heath Ledger utilised two different other actors to create his voice, where he's going to go down a more campy route, or where it's going to be more in the vein of a Heath Ledger style. I have to say I was extremely disappointed with what they'd done with Jared Leto's Joker. I thought they completely underused him. It ended up becoming a romantic side plot for Harley Quinn, which was a complete disgrace to me, and I'm pleased that he's not been kicked to the curb and they're going to be coming back and giving him his own film to do his thing. Immensely talented actor, and I mean, as I said, I'm just really looking forward to seeing what they do with this film, how Joaquin will approach the character, and just whether we're going to see Batman as a younger Batman and maybe a younger Bruce Wayne popping up. Obviously you don't want it overshadowing the main character, but I imagine a film set in Gotham City is going to have some iteration of Bruce Wayne, whether he be a young child like in the Gotham series, or whether it's going to be an older one and the paths cross. I don't know. Yeah,
I mean, obviously that's if it's based in Gotham City, but we just don't know where it's going to start or where it's coming from. But listen, I'm sure this news will develop as time goes on, and it'll be very interesting to see where it goes. This is just the section of the show now that we're moving on to, that we do every week, and it's just covering the top 10 films that are in the top box office in the UK, simply called Top Box Office Chat.
Yeah, and at number one, Stephen, we've got a bit of a surprise here. The Greatest Showman is now number one. It's crossed 2 million for the weekend, for a total gross of 22.1 million. I believe this is the first time it's been number one in the box office. It's 6 weeks into its release, still shown in a very impressive 554 theatres. That's quite an impressive feat to gain number one spot on your 6th week of release. Maybe I do need to watch this film after all. It certainly doesn't seem to be going away anytime soon, and I've heard the soundtrack's doing well too in the charts. I think it's the album's in the top 5 or top, may even be top of the charts over here in the UK.
I think the soundtrack's helped the film itself, John, because it's not very often you see that happening in the box office, where a film lingers in top 5 for 4 or 5 weeks and then goes into the number one spot, especially when you see what it's up against. I think it's phenomenal. Yeah, this film has grossed, I think, just over £22 million in 6 weeks for the genre. I do keep repeating myself every week that it's been in the top 10, you know, that I'm surprised about the genre, and I shouldn't be at this stage, but listen, that's very impressive. I'm very happy it's number one. I'm a big fan of Hugh Jackman, as you know, and I know it's a passion project, has another word I've probably been using over the last 4 or 5 weeks, but listen, I'm happy for, you know, Hugh Jackman. This film's so successful.
Yes, I've not got much more to add to that, Stephen, but just moving on to number 2, we've got Coco sitting at number 2 now. It's held its position from last week. It's crossed 1.6 million for the weekend, taking its total gross to 10 million. It's been out for 3 weeks, shown in 580 theatres, slowed down just a little bit, but it's held its position, as it says, and listen, 1.6 million is nothing to be sniggered at. Very, very good film, as I says. I've done a review on it, did enjoy it, but yeah, it's doing well.
Yep, just over 10 million gross in 3 weeks. That's pretty good for an animated film of any sort. Yeah, just moving on to number 3 now, John. Darkest Hour, former number 1. It's in the 4th week now at the box office.
Yes, it's grossed 1.6 million for the weekend, taking its total gross to 18.5 million. It's been out for 4 weeks. It's still shown in 586 theatres. It's barely been nudged down to number 3 this week with Coco. I think there's only about 28,000 between the two films. Very, very impressive showing for this film. I'm so happy for Gary Oldman, one of my favourite actors, and I'm so pleased to see it's getting the critical success and the commercial success, and I hope he wins an Oscar for it, fully deserving of its success.
Yep, I think he's got a very good chance of, you know, picking up that accolade finally, going on, you know, the success of the film anyway. And its 4th week, as I said, in the box office. And just moving on to number 4, John, in the top 10 is Early Man.
Yes, it's grossed 1.5 million at the weekend, taking its gross to 3.9 million. It's been out 2 weeks now, shown in 562 theatres. It's doing very well, it's doing great. I mean, it's a smaller animated release. Very happy to see it's doing well and earning some dosh. The chaps whose name I forget at the moment, the studio, Knit Park, they're incredibly gifted, and I really do hope this goes on to earn much more. I've been a big fan of their films for a number of years, all the way back to my childhood with the Wallace Gromit films, and even I think Creature Comforts, so very happy to see this doing well.
Yeah, I mean, it's shown over 24 theatres here in Glasgow at the moment, which is pretty impressive for you know, an animated film. It's also getting good reviews as well, you know, in usual places, IMDb, Rotten Tomatoes. It seems to be getting good feedback, but you've got to expect that from the team that put this together. You know, I don't think they've had many flops, if any at all. And when you look at the cast of, you know, Hiddleton, Williams, Redmayne, Spall, you know, could go on and on. It's a fantastic cast who've all got great voices as well as being great actors. They're great voice actors as well. Yeah. And you know, the actual plot to the film is very, very inventive as well. So I'm not surprised it's, you know, where it is in the top 10. But just moving on, John.
Yes, moving on, we've got Maze Runner, The Death Cure at number 5. It's grossed 1.2 million for the weekend for a total gross of 4.1 million. It's been out 2 weeks, showing a massive 625 theatres. I think that's the highest of any of the top 10. Not got a huge amount to see on this film, Steve. Not seen it. As I said last week, don't know anything about it. I've not watched any of the other films in the series. And yeah, I mean, it's doing well. Not much more to add to that.
Yeah, I mean, listen, visually this film looks great. Mentioned last week we saw the trailer in the cinema. It's one of the type of films I think you appreciate it more the big screen than you would on TV. And as you said, it's I don't know if this is the 3rd or 4th movie in the franchise. I know the one from a few years ago was the Scorch Trials, I think it was called. I know that Darren's reviewed a couple of these films, same cast as well, so you can understand that it's got its fan base, and that's the reasons why it's sitting there just mid-table.
Yes, and at number 6 we have Den of Thieves. It's grossed 1 million in its opening weekend, shown in 421 theatres. The only thing I really know about this, Stephen, is that Gerard Butler's in it. I don't know much else, but yeah, I mean, it's grossed 1 million in its opening week. I'd imagine it'd be a fairly small release, fairly modest budget. Maybe I'm wrong, I don't know, but It's doing okay.
Yeah, 50 Cent's in there as well. I've not heard his name for a wee while.
No.
No, this is a film, I think it's getting good feedback very early on. It's only been in the theatres for a week over here, but it's certainly getting good ratings. As you said, Gerard Butler, I think he's playing the sort of lead character in this film. Big Nick O'Brien, apparently. It's a gritty crime saga which follows the lives of an elite unit of LA County Sheriff Department and the state's most successful bank robbery crew as the outlaws plan a seemingly impossible heist on the Federal Reserve Bank. Sounds okay to me, you know. I think it's one I'd actually enjoy watching. It's just coming in at over 2 hours 20 minutes. Yep. The cast is very good. I've got not much more to say on it. It's one of the ones I think I'll probably go and see. Certainly, I think it's 17 theatres it's shown here in Glasgow at the moment, so it's certainly doing the rounds, and I think it will hang about the top 10 for a few weeks more.
Yeah. And moving on to number 7, we have The Post, grossing 960,000 for the weekend. It's sitting at 7.3 million in its total gross now, been out 3 weeks, shown in 601 theatres. This film's just quietly snuck up over the £7 million mark, which is quite impressive, I have to say. Obviously it is Oscar season and it's a Spielberg, Hanks and Street film, so you can't be massively surprised at that. It's clearly a decent film, so yeah, it's doing okay.
Listen, when this film, the trailer dropped just at Christmas time, I thought this was going to be, you know, one of the biggest films of the year. Certainly it's one of the biggest films of the year, what am I talking about? But listen, after I saw it, I can understand why it's fallen out the top 10, I think, the next few weeks. I think the film itself, it's not as good as I hoped it would be. I think the last half hour of the film is great, but there's such a slow build up to this film. For a film that calls itself a drama, it certainly is a drawn out drama for that first 2/3 of the film, and I was slightly underwhelmed by it. I'm not surprised it's, you know, grossed just over £7 million over, you know, the 3 weeks it's been in the top 10, but as I said, I don't think it's going to hang about the top 10 for much longer.
No, certainly not with some of the releases that are coming out, such as Black Panther and stuff. But just moving on to number 8, we've got Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle, still hanging in there. It's grossed 874,000 for the weekend, taking its total gross to 35.3 million. It's been out for 7 weeks now, still shown in 465 theatres. It's dropping off quite a bit now, let's be honest. As I've said till I'm blue in the face, it's a very enjoyable film. Popcorn action flick, that's what I call it. It's earned its cash. I think it's now comfortably in the top 100 grossing films in UK history. Whether it stays in there for much longer with some of the films coming out, I doubt it. Very good film though.
Listen, 7 weeks at the box office for this film is, I don't want to say it's taken everybody by surprise, because that's not fair. There's a lot of Dwayne Johnson fans out there, Jack Black fans out there. Listen, I've made this clear, it's not my cup of tea, but I can understand why it's doing so well, because it does appeal to a lot of people, and to gross £35.3 million in 7 weeks is probably surpassed its expectations. It's been a tremendous success for the film. No doubt we'll see sequels for this now. It's done really well. And just coming in now at number 9, John, is 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri.
Yes, it's grossed 843,000 for the weekend. It's sitting at a total gross of 8.9 million 4 weeks into its release, still shown in 436 theatres. Says it before, an absolutely brilliant film, probably one of my favourite films this year so far. It's dropping quite a bit now, which is slightly disappointing, because I do think it's a better film than some of the other ones in there. But what can I say, it's earned nearly £9 million. It's a success, very much a success, so can't complain too much.
I think I've said everything I've got to say on 3 Billboards. I think the Academy Awards, if they don't recognise this film in most of the categories, that and The Shape of Water to me are probably the big two for this year's awards. I love the film. I've seen it now 3 times, sorry. Thoroughly enjoyed it. It's such a layered film as well, for such a simple plot. It's such an enjoyable film. There's a lot of things that you kind of miss the first time you see it, and the second time you go, why did I miss that? But listen, the cast is fantastic in this. Script is absolutely brilliant, and it's one of my favourite films of the last couple of years anyway. Just moving on now to number 10, John. This is Paul Thomas Anderson's Phantom Thread, starring Daniel Day-Lewis.
Yes, it's in its opening week and it's grossed $638,000 for the previous weekend, taking its total gross to $737,000. It's shown in only 195 theatres, which is quite a limited release. I would imagine that'll go up as the weeks go on. Don't have a huge amount more to say about it. I know it's Daniel Day-Lewis's final release. I'd imagine if he doesn't win an Oscar that he'll maybe change that and do one more so he can go out with an Oscar. But listen, I'm not going to criticise it too much. It's been nominated for a couple of Oscar categories. It's clearly a very good film, well written. In terms of the trailers that I've seen, it looks visually very interesting, very authentic to the time period. Any film that's got Mr. Lewis in it is going to be semi-decent anyway, isn't it? Let's be honest.
Do you think, after he signed up to this and actually read the script, he decided, how am I going to win an Oscar here? I better call my retirement announcement in or something like that. I'm being facetious, of course. Listen, you can't doubt the guy's, he's one of the greatest actors of the last century. His record speaks for itself. Listen, this film came out of nowhere as far as I was concerned, and to be nominated for 6 awards, I think Best Actor, Best Director, and other ones I can't remember off the top of my head. Certainly its release was deliberate on that part. Sadly, it is his last film, John. When you look back over Daniel Day-Lewis's career, it's certainly I don't want to say it's a bit of a underwhelming film to go out on, because I've not seen it obviously, but when you just look back at his role in Lincoln, There Will Be Blood, The Gangs in New York, In the Name of the Father, I can go on. One of the first films I saw him in was My Left Foot, which was absolutely amazing, back in the late 80s. And we were going to talk about this film actually a few podcasts ago in regards to the trailer. Now, listen, I think it's time to put our cards on the table on this one. We actually dropped out of one of our podcasts for the reason that I was very underwhelmed by the trailer. There wasn't much to talk about in it as far as I was concerned, it just didn't. The synopsis bored me. The acting's good, but nothing outstanding, and that's what we talked about this before we went on, and I'm just want to put it out there, we did want to put this in because it was going to be Daniel Day-Lewis's last film, and after watching the trailer, I was so underwhelmed, and I didn't have much to say on it. That was one of the reasons I said, do you really want to put this in? Yeah, I mean, it's about a fashion designer, I think, who falls in love with a model or something. I'm not actually sure the synopsis because I've not actually read it. But that's as you say, Stephen, the story-wise, it's slightly underwhelming. It's an underwhelming film for him to go out on, I firmly believe that. Visually, as I said, it's very, very authentic to the time period, and he is a absolutely phenomenal actor. Obviously, he's one of the greatest actors of all time. But yeah, I mean, I agree with you. The story just doesn't catch my imagination at all. And listen, this is why we do these podcasts, John. We do them with films that we like, we don't like, but I struggled to find anything to talk about in the film, or on the trailer I should say, because I didn't think there was much in the trailer to talk about. No, there wasn't. There definitely wasn't. There definitely wasn't, and that's why we didn't speak about it, Stephen. So, yeah. So we actually end this box office chat in a very underwhelming way. But listen, we'd just like to thank you once again for listening to episode 18 of the Movie Burner podcast.
Remember guys, if you're enjoying the content we're putting out, then be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube and iTunes, and give us a little follow on Facebook at Movie Burner Entertainment and on Twitter at Movie Burners. You can also catch up with all the latest reviews we're putting out at the Movie Burner blog on movieburnerentertainment.org. Until the next time, goodbye.